Hi everyone, welcome to Philosophical Perspectives on the Pandemic. Today we have with us Shivani Sharma. Thank you so much, Shivani, for joining. And let's get to the first question. What is your area of research, Shivani?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. So the area of my research is food ethics and some related concepts in food political philosophy, such as food justice and food sovereignty. Food ethics basically deals with the question that why should we produce and consume food in certain ways when we may do so otherwise? I think that forms the crux of what the discipline is about. But it can also be understood in terms of our food responsibilities to ourselves or to other people. This could vary from an environmental concern to the well-being of animals to the concern for the posterity. So all of these concerns can be taken into account when we're talking about food ethics.
Okay.
Also, there are questions about the proper limits and role of science and technology in food production. And we can see this surface in the case of GM food and industrial food. So broadly, it deals with the concerns of such kind.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. Could you tell us a little bit more about your research? Would you like to? Is there anything specific that, yeah, please go on.
So what I am doing in my thesis is I am critiquing commodification of food. The process, as I understand it, is basically we create commodities and there is buying and selling of goods in the market via a monetary exchange. Now, the problem is that spreading of market norms and values to domains like healthcare, education, religious institutions, security, social goods, food is something which is very recent in nature. These domains were initially not governed by market values, but rather non-market values. But what we see now is that there is a change from a market economy to a market society. So market norms and values are very rapidly seeping into social spheres and social norms are getting replaced by them. So prior ethical views, principles and all are getting very easily substituted by market norms and values. This I feel is very problematic in the case of food especially because food, because of industrial food production and the prevailing economic and political order, which is broadly neoliberalism, has made food become a commodity. And I want to explore what are the ethical issues that can surface when you start treating food, which is a basic need, a basic right, as something which is the same as buying a car or furniture in the market. So I want to explore all of those difficulties and not just, I don't just want to be concerned with questions of personal conduct, but also talk about systemic injustices and, you know, sort of understand the social aspect of commodification of food. Like, how is it a social problem and what kind of reformative action can we look forward to?
Okay, let's get to the pandemic related question. So the first question in the pandemic related session is, has philosophy helped you during the pandemic? And if it has, then in what way?
Yes, it has. In fact, sometimes I think the question should be, when does philosophy not help us? That should be the more important question. But specifically, Stoicism is something which I feel always helps me come out of my slumber. And one thing that I dealt with these days was that there was a lot of anxiety. You're stuck inside your room, you can't go out, you don't know what the future looks like. So automatically, I had sleepless nights. I was very anxious about what the future looks like. But Stoicism always helps me, especially Seneca's letters. They are a source of peace because when I read them, it feels like they're addressed to me. So you feel that there's a connection and, you know, it helps you get through your days most of the times. So yes.
Okay. So the next question is, can we relate your research in some way to the pandemic and and in what way, if yes?
I think, yes, my research has become very relevant to the pandemic, in fact. Since I'm talking about commodification of food, and we all saw the situation of migrant workers and daily wagers, and how they suffered very gravely because they did not have money to buy food. So the problem is that the global food crisis has somehow become worse with the pandemic, because when the income entitlements of people, it fails, right? Then automatically they become more food insecure. But to equate food with something as trivial as money and to deny people that basic right is something which can be explored with respect to the pandemic. Because what about the people in the case of, what about all of those people who lose their jobs and are not able to afford something as basic as food, are they then just supposed to rely on voluntary charity by other people? So then what is their situation? Who is to be responsible for making sure that, food security is tackled with, and how to tackle it? Basically, that's in the absence of proper income for people, how do you deal with the food insecurity for them?
Okay. Okay.
So I feel that aspect is something which can be explored. Apart from that, I haven't thought much about it, but I'm sure other connections can also come into the picture.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Shivani, for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.